teachings, let's take a moment and generate our motivation. I think that we will listen and contemplate the Dharma together so that we can free our minds from the chains of ignorance, anger, and attachment. So we can free our minds from the prison of self-centeredness and self-grasping, and so that we can develop all of our potential, all of our good qualities to their fullest extent, becoming fully awakened Buddhas. And to do this not merely for our own well-being, but feeling interrelated with and connected with all living beings. Let's do this with the motivation to be able to best benefit all living beings through attaining spiritual realizations ourselves. So take a moment and contemplate that motivation, make it your motivation for being here today. So these 8 verses belong to the genre of teachings called thought training or mind transformation. The Tibetan term is lojong. And the 37 practices of bodhisattvas, that text also belongs to this genre of teachings. That's the texts that don't believe everything you think is based on. So these teachings are actually rooted in the Buddhist word and developed to some extent by the Indian commentators, but they really got drawn out and expanded in Tibet. And personally speaking, I find the thought training teachings extremely beneficial because they're very practical. They make the Dharma really down to earth, something that we can practice in our daily life that helps us with our problems. So it's not, abstract philosophy to quarrel over or debate about. It's real juicy teachings to put it into practice in our lives. Okay, so and the teachings talk a lot, you'll see, about transforming adversity into the path to awakening. So that's something that's really helpful because we all face adversity, don't we? Yeah, we all have problems. So if we can transform those problems into the path to awakening, then, we're going to really progress along the path quite swiftly. If every time we have a problem, we get bogged down and we feel sorry for ourselves and we say, oh, I have a problem, I can't practice, then we're never going to get anywhere on the path. So these teachings are quite special in that regard, teaching us how to transform adversity into the path. And they also center around bodhicitta, bodhicitta being the aspiration to attain full awakening, in other words, Buddhahood, for the benefit of all living beings, all sentient beings. And so we're constantly coming back to love, compassion, altruism, to pulling ourselves out of our self-centeredness, pulling ourselves out of the mind that always thinks we're the center of the universe. Because that's how we view life, don't we? There's me, and then there's the rest of the world. Right? Well, yeah? I mean, who do you think about all day long? Yeah. Who's the foremost person in your mind that you think about all day long? Me. Good. We're among friends, we can admit it. Yeah, we always think about me. From the time we wake up in the morning, me. Yeah, what's going to bring me happiness? What awful person is going to disturb me today? During the day, how can I be happy? How can I get what I want? At nighttime, I'm so exhausted. I need to sleep. And then who do we dream about all night long? Me. Do you dream about anybody else at night? No, I'm the center of my dreams too. This is called self-centeredness. Okay? There's over 3 billion human beings on this planet, and one of me. But who occupies my attention more? The 7 billion other human beings? Or me? Me. Yeah? And when you count all the animals and insects, there's way more than 7 billion others. I mean, there's zillions of others. But who do we think about all day long, every day? Who's the most important one in our thoughts? Me. Yeah? I'm the center of the universe. And the problem, why I'm not happy all the time, is that other people don't realize that I'm the center of the universe. So they don't realize that they should do everything my way. They don't realize that I'm always right and they're wrong. Yeah. They don't realize that my happiness is more important than theirs. Yeah. That's what's wrong with the world, is that these other people are, that's what ignorance means. They don't realize that I'm the center of the universe. They're so ignorant. Of course, everybody else thinks the same thing. And they think we're ignorant because we don't realize they're the center of the universe. But that just shows, again, how ignorant they are, because they're wrong. Yeah? So, if only everybody did what I wanted them to do, then I would be happy and the world would be wonderful. So I have advice for everybody how they can improve a little bit. So for some people, how they can improve, they should stand up straighter. They should cut their hair. They should lose weight. They should gain weight. They should get a job. They should stop talking back to me and start obeying me. Yeah. So we have advice for everybody. You know? For our family members, don't you have some advice for your parents? How they could improve a little bit? First of all, by getting off your back. Yeah. Not expecting so much of you. Yeah, those of you who have kids, you have lots of advice for your kids, how to improve. Yeah. Brush your teeth, wash your face, study more. And we have advice for our brothers and sisters. Lots of advice for them. Stop fighting with me. Apologize for everything you've done wrong. We have advice for our friends. Yeah. Do things my way. If you're married, you have lots of advice for your spouse, don't you? do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And if you really love me, you would do whatever I said. That is the biggest line, the biggest deception line. If you really love me, you would remake yourself into everything I want you to be. Yeah. If somebody says that to you, what are you going to say? I want you to remake yourself so that you're everything I want you to be. And I expect you to be everything I want you to be. And to meet all my needs. Somebody says that to you, what are you going to say? Bye-bye. Don't put that on my head. I can't do that. But what do you put on their head? That same thing. We have lots of advice for our boss, lots of advice for our employees, lots of advice for the government, and especially the U.S. government. Everybody gets to give advice to the U.S. government. Yeah? So if only the government would do this, or stop doing that or that. Yeah. We have advice for our teachers, what they should do. Advice for our neighbors. Yeah. We probably have advice for me, advice for him, advice for each other, advice for the cooks, advice for the gardeners, advice for the ants. Stay away. Yeah? So we have things that we want everybody else to do. And if they would only do those things, then we would be happy. Then the world would live harmoniously. So we tell everybody all of our wonderful advice, how they should improve. Out of compassion, of course, don't we? Yeah. We're so compassionate. Cut your hair, you'd really look a lot better. Yeah. We say out of compassion. And what do these people do? Huh? When I say, you'd be a whole lot nicer person if you stopped criticizing me. What do they do when we give them advice? Boo! Yeah. They say, mind your own business. Get off my back. Let me be. I'm not your slave. And we just go, they just don't get it. If they only did what I wanted them to be, they would be so much happier. And so would I. Of course, when they tell us what they want us to do and to be, oh God, leave me alone. Okay? Is this how we look at things? Everybody should change themselves so that they meet my needs, fulfill my wishes, make me feel good, not hurt my feelings, praise me, speak of my good qualities around the world, approve of me, appreciate me, acknowledge me, love me, give me awards. Huh? Okay, so we really are deeply embedded in this notion that we are the center of the universe. And in fact, this notion and everything that comes as a result of it is the source of our misery. because we want everybody to change, and they're not going to change. Yeah. When I was a little girl, my mother told me, don't hit your head against the wall. Yeah. Don't hit your head against the wall. Does your mother, do you have that kind of expression here?
I don't really know the meaning. That's an idiom, right?
Yeah, I'm going to explain it in a minute. But, like hit your head against the wall, bang, bang, bang. She said, don't do that. Because if you hit your head against the wall, what's going to happen? Is the wall going to move? No. Is your head going to hurt? Yes. So the meaning is, don't do useless things. Yeah. Banging your head against the wall to try and get the wall to move is useless, and it's only going to hurt you. Okay? So this was one of the wise advices my mother gave to me. I've sometimes thought of writing a little book with all the little things like this that my mother used to say. Yeah. Do you have things that your mother used to tell you? Little kind of slogans like this? Yeah. And some of them have deep meaning if you contemplate them. Okay. So what my mother was telling me was, don't do things that are useless. Don't expect the world to conform to what you want it to be. Okay? This is actually the same thing the Buddha is telling us. Don't try to remake the world in your own image so it is what you want it to be. Change yourself. Because if we change ourselves, then no matter who we're with or where we are, we can be happy. If we don't change ourselves, but we're always trying to change outside, then no matter where we are or who we're with, we're going to be dissatisfied. Because the world is not going to conform to our self-centered wishes. So, the point is that our self-centeredness is a really big problem for us. It causes us a lot of suffering. And what's very deceptive about our self-centeredness is that we think it's looking out for our benefit. So when our self-centeredness says, go cut in the front of the lunch line, we go, yes, I'll do that, because my self-centeredness is looking out for me. It wants to make sure that I get enough food, and I get the food that I like, and the best kind of food. So we think that our self-centeredness is going to bring us happiness. But what happens when you cut in the front of the lunch line? Everybody else behind you is not pleased with you. Yeah? And then, they let you know that they're not happy with you. Then your mind gets unhappy. So you have all the best food in your stomach, but your mind is still unhappy. And it's because we listen to our self-centeredness. In your family, some family member, does something you don't approve of, or some family member insults you. So you get angry. And you shout at them. Who do you think you are? Why are you saying those things to me? Shut up. People in glass houses shouldn't throw bricks. Do you have that idiom? No? Oh, you're going to learn a lot of English this retreat. English expression. People in glass houses shouldn't throw rocks. Okay? Yeah. If you live in a glass house and you throw rocks, how are other people going to respond to your throwing rocks at them? They're going to throw rocks back. You live in a glass house. What's going to happen to your glass house when they throw rocks at it? It breaks apart. Where do all the glass shards grow when they break? Into your body. You hurt. Okay? So what it means, people in glass houses shouldn't throw rocks. Means if you have that fault, don't accuse other people of having it. Because if you do, they're going to turn around and throw it back at you. I throw the rock at them, like accusing them of a fault. They pick it up and throw it back at me because I have the fault. Then I get hurt. Okay? So that's what we say to the people when they point out our faults. Yeah. Why are you criticizing me? Mind your own business. You have those same faults. I'm just sweet, innocent, cooperative, wonderful, magnanimous, benevolent, compassionate, loving me. And look how you're treating me. You should be ashamed of yourself, accusing me of having faults. Yeah? Not the way we act? When somebody points out our fault? Sometimes we act that way. We throw it right back at them, don't we? We get furious. We yell, we scream, we pick up something, throw it at them. Write nasty messages on your phone. I hate you, I can't stand your guts. Yeah, your thumbs hurt so much because you've written so many nasty things. So we either do that when they point out our faults or say mean things to us, or the other thing is we start to doubt ourselves. Oh, I must be really a lousy person. I did that. Oh, I blew it again. Of course. I make all the mistakes. I'm totally worthless. They told me that when I was a kid. And I believe it, because it's true. I'm really worthless. I'm just horrible, hopeless. Nobody loves me. Yeah, we have another English expression for that. Nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll eat some worms. Worms. You know worms? Yeah.
So we are not really going to eat it, right?
No, we're vegetarian. But a worm is a very lowly being, you know? So, nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll eat some worms. In other words, that's all I deserve is worms. Because I'm so awful. You know? And then we feel sorry for ourselves, right? Somebody insulted us, said something nasty to us. We get completely discouraged, down in the dumps. We withdraw. You're getting it. Yeah. No. Yeah. And we feel sorry for ourselves. And then, You know, we expect somebody else to fix the problem. Yeah. Because after all, they're the one who hurt our feelings. Yeah. We're not responsible for our feelings getting hurt. It's their fault. Yeah. So somebody comes along and says, you know, because somebody comes along and says, oh, what's the matter? You know, you look upset. Nothing's the matter. And the person who insulted you comes and, you know, wants to talk about the situation. I want to talk to you. Right? No. Sometimes we don't cry so much, you know. We give them the cold treatment. Don't talk to them, you know. You live in the same house with them, you become like a block of ice. You sit down for family dinner. Yeah. Everybody in the family is like, uh-oh. Yeah. Uh-oh. The volcano's going to erupt soon. Eat your dinner and get out of there. Yeah. Okay. How many of you yell and scream when you're angry? Oh, none of you. Oh, my goodness. What kind of Dharma talk am I giving? Oh, none of you yell and scream. I'm so sorry. Okay. How many of you cry? Oh, 10 of you. Okay, 10 people telling the truth. How many of you become like a wall of ice? Okay, a few more of you telling the truth. Let's go back to the first one. How many of you yell and scream when you're angry? One person. 2, 3. Oh, a few more of you. Oh, none of the guys yell and scream. How unusual. I guess you throw things instead? Imagine that. The men don't yell and scream. Should we try that again? They'll get so mad at me that maybe they'll yell and scream. Okay? So, yelling and screaming, becoming an ice cube, you know, going off and isolating ourselves and having a pity party. No? All these are functions of the self-centered mind. Yeah. When we act in that way, what response do we get from the people we're mad at? Yeah. When you yell and scream at somebody, how do they... this is directing just towards the few women who yell and scream. The guys, no. What response do you get when you yell and scream from other people? How do they respond to you?
Some get quiet.
Some get quiet. Mm-hmm.
Some yelling us back.
Some yell at us back. Yeah.
And some apology.
Some apologize? Really?
Because they make me stay.
Because what?
Because they make
Really? They realize they made a mistake.
mereka buat salah.
I don't know some is like
Wow. Wow. Okay, maybe some of them apologize.
Atau yang ada
How many of you apologize when somebody yells and screams at you?
yang minta maaf ketika ada orang yang memaki Anda. Very nice.
3 people.
Oke, 2, 3.
Okay. But yelling and screaming, does it usually produce what you want?
Apakah itu menghasilkan apa yang Anda mau?
Yeah. At that moment that you're yelling and screaming at somebody, what is it that you really want in your heart?
Sungguh inginkan.
First of all, who do you yell and scream at the most? Your family or strangers?
Keluarga atau asing?
Your family, huh?
Keluarga ya.
Okay. So you just yelled and screamed at somebody in your family.
Seseorang di keluarga.
Yeah. Does that bring about the
Maka itu
The-
membuat
what you want in your own heart? What is it you're really wanting at that time
Anda sungguh-sungguh
when you're yelling and screaming at somebody?
waktu Anda teriak-teriak memaki.
Yeah, really in your heart.
Sungguh di hati Anda.
Ya.
Apa sih yang ada ini?
When you're mad at a family member,
Anda marah kepada
aren't you really in your heart
bukankah dalam
actually wanting to connect with them
sesungguhnya ingin menyambung
and have a loving relationship?
dan punya hubungan yang baik
Isn't that somewhere in your mind?
di dalam pikiran Anda? Tidakkah itu terpikirkan?
And yet when you yell and scream, how does your loved one behave?
Perilaku orang yang Anda kasih
They're not going to connect with you.
mereka tidak akan
Yeah, they're going to back away.
mereka akan pergi.
Yeah, they'll either throw something at you, yell back at you, become an ice cube, go cry, and if you're hurt, they might apologize to you.
Sakit, mungkin mereka akan minta maaf.
I haven't had that happen too much.
Sudah lama tidak.
But I don't yell and scream because I'm just right. Okay? So what I'm getting at is our self-centered mind, is making us act in certain ways that actually push away the people that we care the most about. When you go have a pity party and feel sorry for yourself, and you won't talk to anybody because you're crying or withdrawing or whatever, how does somebody react to you? Can they connect with you? Is it easy for them to express love to you when you're doing that? No. But isn't that what you most want at that time? Is for them to love you and for you to love them? So in some way our behavior and our anger, our self-centeredness, are bringing about the opposite of what we want. When we become an ice cube and we refuse to engage, all we do is give people dirty looks. Can they connect with us? No. Okay? When we point out other people's faults and make them upset, can they connect with us? No. Unless we're able to point out a fault in a certain way so that the person knows that we really are saying it because we care about them. Yeah? If we can point something out to somebody without yelling, without blaming, without accusing, but just saying, this is what I've observed. I just want to give you some feedback. You can take it, you can leave it. Then maybe they can hear it. Because we're saying it in a non-threatening way. We're not blaming them. Okay, so they know that we're saying it because we care. Yeah, but in order to give people feedback in that way, we have to not be so angry or so self-centered. Communicating? Okay. So let's look at the first verse here. Because all these verses are going to hit against our self-centeredness. Yeah. Because we have to see the fault of our self-centeredness so that we can overcome it. So the first verse, with the thought of attaining awakening for the welfare of all beings, who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will constantly practice holding them dear. Okay. It's only 4 lines, but there's a lot of meaning in this. Okay, so in this verse we say that sentient beings are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. In ancient Indian mythology, they talked about jewels. Yeah, in some of the Jataka tales, you'll read about wish-fulfilling jewels, if you've ever read them. So the Jataka tales think of these gems that are at the bottom of the sea or in some faraway island. And if you can find one of these gems, it will fulfill every wish you have. Okay? So sailors go off in search of wish-fulfilling gems, because if you get it, yeah, you can have all the money you want, you can have everything you want. Of course, we know that there's no, nowadays we know there's no such thing as a wish-fulfilling gem. But, it's used as an analogy here, saying that other sentient beings are more precious than a wish-fulfilling gem. Now, why would the Buddha think that other living beings are more precious than a jewel that would fulfill all of your wishes? Yeah. Essentially, this is saying that other living beings can fulfill all of our wishes. And we just got done saying that sentient beings are not going to listen to our advice. So what does it mean that they're going to fulfill all of our wishes? It doesn't mean that they're going to listen to our advice and become what we want them to become. That's not the meaning. Okay? It means that if we develop loving kindness for them, and if we develop compassion for them, and if we cultivate the altruistic intention to become a Buddha for their benefit, our becoming a Buddha will fulfill all of our own wishes. Okay? Because when we're really serious spiritual practitioners, our deepest wish in life is to attain full awakening so that we can be of the greatest benefit to each and every living being. That is our deepest wish. But we can only attain full awakening in dependence upon other living beings, because in order to attain full awakening, we need 2 components. One is the wisdom understanding reality. The other is the bodhicitta, the altruistic aspiration to attain full awakening. To have that altruistic aspiration to attain full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings means that we need to depend on sentient beings. Okay? So in dependence upon cultivating love and compassion and altruism for each and every sentient being, we will attain our highest spiritual goals. If we don't have love and compassion and altruism for each and every living being, there's no possible way we can become fully awakened. Yeah. Because if we leave even one living being out of our love and compassion, then we don't have the bodhicitta. If we don't have the bodhicitta aspiration, we're not going to attain full awakening. Okay. So our enlightenment depends on each and every living being. So that means each ant you see, okay? Our enlightenment depends on each ant. Because we have to have love and compassion for each of those ants. Okay? For every mosquito. Love and compassion for the people we like is easy. That's why I'm not talking about it. Yeah. Oh yeah, people who are nice to me, of course I wish them well. Yeah. Ants, it's another deal. Yeah. Ants on the other side of the world I can have love and compassion for. Yeah. All the carpenter ants that were eating Ananda Hall, where I live, they were going in the wood and eating the wood and residing in the wood. I'm sure you have lots of love and compassion for our ants. Because they're far away and you don't have to deal with them. Yeah. But what about your ants that are eating the wood of your house or crawling around in your room or crawling over your food? Do you have love and compassion for those ants? What in the world is this lady thinking? She must be crazy. Love and compassion for ants? Where's my insecticide? Yeah. But seriously, this is what the Buddha's pointing out to us. If we want to become a Buddha, like Amitabha, like Kuan Yin, like Mahastanaprapta, then we have to have love and compassion for each sentient being. What about strangers, people that you don't know? Yeah, like when you're sitting in the middle of Jakarta, when you're trying to get anywhere in Jakarta. Yeah, or even when, did you hit the traffic jam coming up here? Yeah. So you're sitting there in the traffic. Why don't all these people get off the road? I need to travel on it. Can you have love and compassion for those people? The people in Los Angeles who are parked on the freeway because the traffic's not moving, you can have compassion for them. They're far away. Yeah. But can we have compassion for all the other people sitting in traffic with us? Yeah. Can we have compassion for the people at the grocery store? What about the trash collectors? Do you ever say thank you to the trash collectors? Do you ever think of the trash collector as a living being with feelings who wants to be happy and not suffer? Yeah. We tend to ignore trash collectors. But actually, trash collectors are extremely important. They do a very important job in society. Because look at what happens if they don't work for a day. Yeah. I was in Tel Aviv, Israel, and when the trash collectors went on strike, that's when you really appreciate the trash collectors. Okay? So to be able, we don't even know these people. Can we say thank you to them when we see them? Thank you for collecting our trash, for keeping us safe and, keeping up the sanitation, allowing us to live in a pretty and healthy place. Yeah? We should thank the trash collectors every time we see them. What about the people who work on the roads? Yeah? Do you ever think of them as living beings who have feelings, who have families? Yeah? Whose bodies hurt after they work all day, who want to go home to their family and just relax, who want to have enough money to feed their family. Yeah. Do we have love and compassion for the construction workers on the road? Or do we just drive by them and think, why are they repairing the road now? Why don't they do it at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm not driving? You see how our self-centeredness works? Okay. Yeah. How about the people working on the electric lines and the telephone lines? Yeah, who have to climb up and work on all the telephone lines. Can be quite dangerous work sometimes. Do we ever thank them for what they're doing? Yeah. In actual fact, when we look around, we're really indebted to the work that strangers do. Because we wouldn't be able to live without the kindness of these strangers, without these strangers doing all the different work they do in society. Yeah. Do you know the architect who designed this building? Anybody know the architect? Was it a member of Abbey? No? Yeah. Do you know the contractor who built the building? Yeah. How about the people who cut down the trees? Or the people who ran the lumber mills, making the boards? Or the people who put the varnish on the boards so that they are protected and look very beautiful? Do we know any of those people? How about the electrician? Yeah? Who put in all the lights? Or the plumber who put in the toilets and the showers and the sinks? Or maybe the person who ran the backhoe, who excavated the site so that they could make a foundation? Do we know any of those people? Do we say thank you to them? Do we even think of their kindness? Yeah. But in actual fact, they've been very kind to us. And our enlightenment depends on them. Not only does our enlightenment depend on them, our staying alive day to day depends on them. Yeah. So when we look around and really open our eyes, we see that a lot of people have been kind to us, that we're the recipient of a lot of kindness. And when we train ourselves well to see the kindness of others, then everywhere we go, we see kindness. Everywhere we go, we see people helping us. Yeah? This morning I saw a couple of the people who work here go out on a scooter with 2 of the big bottles, empty bottles of water. My guess is that they were going out to fill the bottles. I was thinking, how are they going to hold those heavy, full bottles on a scooter? Yeah, I didn't see them come back, but I was thinking, my goodness, because those water bottles are heavy. How are you going to hold those and ride on the back of a scooter or drive a scooter at the same time? And yet they were going off and doing this to help us. Yeah, so that we could sit here this morning and listen to the Dharma and meditate. Yeah. Okay. So everywhere we look, there's people working very, very hard, and our lives depend on them. All the different food, there was a lovely breakfast this morning. Who grew all that food? Who picked it? Who transported it? If we go downstairs, we can see the cooks preparing it, cooking it. Yeah. Who's washing the pans that the food got cooked in? Who's cleaning the dishes we ate out of? Again, we look around and there's kindness everywhere. So to really open our eyes and see how much we depend on other living beings and how kind they've been to us, and really take that into our heart. Yeah. Here I've been talking about strangers, so that's, we can kind of see that kindness. Can you get a sense of the kindness of strangers? You just think of the bus that you rode to get here. Yeah. How many people were involved in building that bus? Not only the engineers and the people who designed it, but there were miners who spend their whole daytime underneath the earth extracting metal from the earth that goes to make the steel and the other metallic parts of the car, make the engine. Yeah, the people who work on rubber plantations to get the rubber to make our wheels. The people who work in plastic factories, making, all the things that are plastic in the bus. Or the people who grew the material or, sewed the material to make the seats that we sat on. Everywhere we look around, there's evidence of other living beings and how much we have benefited from the work they do in society. So when we see this, when we see the kindness of others, then our heart wants to open in return and extend kindness to them. Doesn't it? Yeah? What about your family? Yeah. The people you love the most and the people you get the angry at the most. Yeah. Think of who took care of you when you were an infant. Our mother and father gave us this body. And then they took care of us, or other family members took care of us. When we were little, somebody took care of us because we couldn't take care of ourselves. Yeah. They taught us how to speak. Yeah. In fact, everything we know was taught to us by others. When we came into the world, everybody was a stranger. Yeah, we didn't know anybody when we were born. Yeah, we couldn't do anything for ourselves. You see newborn babies, they can't do anything for themselves. And yet, you know, when we were born like that, other people took care of us. They fed us. Yeah, our parents were usually sleep deprived for years because we would cry in the middle of the night we were hungry. So people took care of us, they fed us, they helped us when we were sick. Yeah, having a sick infant is no fun. Yeah. But people took care of us. Yeah, they fed us. They taught us how to speak. They made sure we went to school and got an education. They made sure we did our homework even when we didn't want to. Yeah. If we have, musical abilities or artistic abilities, if we're good at math or science or literature or writing, or any talent that we're good at, it's because other people taught us and encouraged us. Okay? So it's very helpful to spend some time thinking about this and to realize how much kindness we've received in our life. And when we do, then automatically we want to repay that kindness. Okay? So there's a few minutes left for questions or comments, if you have anything.
But what about this kind of loving kindness teaching? What if we in the middle of nowhere and then we are being attacked or being attacked by robbers, and then the robbers hurt our family, hit our body, and we also get hurt. Especially when we see our families getting hurt, of course, then there's a kind of hatred growing in ourselves, right? Then we want to fight back. We want to hit him also. Maybe just hurt him and quickly die, so that our family is safe again. So that's I just want some explanation for that. Thank you.
Okay. So what happens when we're attacked by robbers or thieves or people who want to harm us or people who want to harm our family? Then automatically the wish comes, we want to protect ourselves, protect our family, and we are very angry, we really hate the people attacking us. Yeah? Okay. Those are quite special situations. And it's true, our anger comes up quite easily in those situations. Yeah, and it's very easy to respond to anger and to attack back and to be very, very vicious. Yeah. Especially, to protect our family, to protect ourselves. Okay, now, there's a few things to think about here. Yeah. First of all, we can defend ourselves and protect our family without being angry. Okay, do you think that's possible? That you can defend yourself and protect your family, but without being angry at the person attacking. Okay? We may never have even thought that such a thing is a possibility before. But if we think about it, it is possible. If we look at the person who is attacking, is that person happy? Person who's attacking us or harming us or our family, is that person happy at that moment? No. If they were happy, they wouldn't be doing something that's brutal and harmful. Okay. So that person is unhappy. Is that person confused? Yeah, they're very confused because they think that harming other people is going to somehow alleviate their own suffering. Is harming other people going to alleviate their suffering? No. You know, they could get beaten either by the people, you know, that they attack, or the police come and arrest them, they get put in prison. Okay. So they're very confused about what is the cause of happiness and what is the cause of suffering. Plus, their minds are suffering and unhappy at that time. If we really look at that aspect, do you think it's possible to have some understanding, some compassion for them? You don't agree with what they're doing. Yeah, what they're doing is abhorrent. But can you have some understanding for their suffering and their confusion? Can you have some compassion for the fact that they're actually creating the cause for their own suffering by harming us? Because they're going to suffer this life through harming us, and they're also creating negative karma so that in future lives they're going to have suffering. Okay? So if you look at it in that way, do you think you can have some compassion for those people? You don't think so. When you're unhappy, do you want people to have compassion for you? Yeah. When you do stupid things out of confusion, do you want people to forgive you and have some compassion for you? Yeah, we do, don't we? So how about trying to extend some forgiveness and compassion to the people who harm us? If we want people to do that for us, and it makes sense, you know, when we make a mistake, we want other people to forgive us and have compassion. Because we see that, okay, I made a mistake, but I'm not an evil person. Yeah, have some compassion for me. So similarly, the people who are harming us are not evil people. They also would appreciate some understanding and compassion. That understanding and compassion, you know, if we can have that for them, that doesn't mean that we let them continue to hurt us. Okay? Having compassion does not mean you let somebody take advantage of you. Okay? Or you let somebody hurt you. That's not the meaning of compassion. Okay? But you can have compassion for somebody who's hurting you and do something to stop them. Yeah, but without hating them. Yeah, you want to stop them because they're hurting you and your family. And you want to stop them because they're also creating negative karma. Okay? So you can stop them. You can, you know, do something to protect yourself without hating them. And if your mind is free of hatred in that moment, you can think of some creative ways to stop that person in which you may have to hurt them, but the hurt you inflict is minimal. Whereas if your mind is filled with anger and hatred, you may stop them, but you're going to try to inflict the maximum amount of hurt. And you yourself could wind up getting hurt even more, or getting arrested afterwards. Okay? There was an incident in the U.S. maybe a week or two ago a man who was an Iraqi war veteran. I suspect he had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. But the newspaper didn't say that, but I suspect maybe he did. Anyway, he and his fiancée had just bought a house, and there was a man in the, about 2 o'clock in the morning. They heard somebody outside, on their front porch, walking around the house, making noise. Yeah. The man went outside and he said, stop, go away. But the person who was out there just walking around their house didn't, They kept walking. They kept, just walking around. So meanwhile, the woman in the house went to call the police because she was very frightened. The man had a gun, and he shot this person. The person hadn't done anything wrong. He was just walking around the house. But because he didn't stop when the man said stop, and this man felt like, oh no, who is this guy? He's going to hurt me and hurt my family. He shot and killed this other person. Who was the other person that they shot and killed? It was a man in his 70s who had Alzheimer's disease. Who had, Alzheimer's, so he had dementia. Sometimes people with Alzheimer's, they wander out of their house. They wander everywhere. This man had, he lived with his wife. At nighttime, she was asleep. He wandered out of the house and he was walking around the neighborhood. And he was the person who was walking around their house who this other man shot and killed. Can you imagine how he felt when he was told the next day that he killed somebody, an old man with Alzheimer's? I mean, he just broke down when he heard that. Okay? So it's an interesting example. It's a good example because he was angry. He was afraid. He had hatred at that moment that he fired the gun. Yeah? His mind had no creativity in it about how to solve the problem. One thing he could have done is just stayed in the house and locked the doors of the house. Yeah, if you lock the doors of your house and you close the window and call the police, they're not going to come in. Yeah. Okay, so that's what I mean. If you have compassion, you stop and think before you respond in a situation of danger. And often that means that you can react in a much more appropriate way that isn't going to cause yourself or anybody else unnecessary harm.